Comfort is the slowest poison of ambition. The worker seeks comfort, the leader seeks challenge. And life, my friends, rewards challenge. Every time you trade your growth for comfort, you trade your future for the present. But the moment you choose discomfort in the service of vision, that's the day you stop being managed by fear and start being moved by purpose. Before wealth changes your life, your mind must change its laws. The worker thinks, how much can I make? The leader thinks, how much value can I create? And that small shift, that invisible change in philosophy, is what separates survival from success and success from significance. Let me tell you something that changed my entire life. You don't get paid for time, you get paid for value. That single realization flipped my world upside down. For years, I thought the key was working longer hours, showing up earlier, staying later, and trying to impress people with my effort. But one day, I looked around and saw people who worked half as hard but earned 10 times more. That was my wake-up call. It wasn't the hours, it was the value inside those hours that made the difference. See, everyone gets the same 24 hours, rich or poor, young or old, worker or leader, but how those hours are spent determines everything. The worker says, I gave them 8 hours, they owe me a paycheck. The leader says, what did I create in those 8 hours that made me more valuable? It's a subtle shift, but it's the difference between surviving and prospering. A worker sees time as the currency. A leader sees growth as the currency. I remember the early days when I was earning pennies compared to the effort I put in. My mentor looked me in the eye one day and said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. That hit me like lightning, because in that moment, I realized the marketplace doesn't pay for time, it pays for solutions. It pays for creativity, for courage, for the ability to solve problems that others can't. If you want to change your paycheck, change your value. Learn something new this year, a skill that doubles your contribution. Maybe it's communication, leadership, marketing, or finance. The goal isn't to do more, but to become more. Ask yourself every morning, what am I becoming? Because when you grow, everything around you grows. Don't chase money, chase mastery. Money will always find its way to the person who has mastered their craft. You see, activity is cheap, productivity is precious. A worker fills the day, a leader builds the day. A worker gets tired, a leader gets transformed. So instead of counting hours, start counting impact. Instead of asking, how long must I work? Ask, how much can I contribute? The day you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an investor in yourself, your skills, your time, that's the day everything changes. Because when you raise your value, the marketplace has no choice but to respond. You don't have to chase success. You just have to become the kind of person it's attracted to. The world pays you not for what you do, but for what you've become. And the beautiful part, you can start becoming more today. Most people spend their whole lives waiting for the right time, the right job, the right person, the right opportunity. But the truth is, opportunity doesn't knock on every door. It waits for those bold enough to build their own. The difference between a worker and a leader is simple. The worker waits for permission, the leader starts without it. Waiting is a habit that robs you of potential. Creation is a discipline that builds your destiny. When I was young, I used to complain that life wasn't fair, that some people seemed to have all the breaks while others struggled just to get a chance. One day, my mentor said to me, if you want doors to open, start building hinges. That was a turning point. I realized I didn't need to wait for someone to notice me. I needed to start creating something worth noticing. Leaders don't sit around hoping to be chosen, they choose themselves. They see the same problems everyone else sees, but instead of complaining, they say, "What can I build from this?" Every problem is a project in disguise. Every frustration is a business idea waiting to be born. Think about it. Every great company started as a response to a problem someone refused to tolerate any longer. Someone got tired of inconvenience, confusion, or inefficiency and said, "There must be a better way." That's how leaders think. They don't wait for the environment to change. They change the environment. You might say, "But I don't have the resources." Well, neither did most great entrepreneurs when they began. You don't need all the resources, you just need resourcefulness. Start small, one idea, one project, one step. Maybe it's improving a process at work, solving a local issue, or starting something online. It's not about size, it's about initiative. And once you take initiative, something magical happens. The world starts to respond. See, creation builds confidence. Every time you make something from nothing, you prove to yourself that you can. And once you know that, no one can take it from you. Stop waiting for someone to come and save you. They're not coming. You are the one you've been waiting for. You're the one who can turn frustration into innovation, delay into direction, and struggle into structure. So the next time you're tempted to complain, pause and ask, "What can I create from this?" Replace complaints with creation, and your life will shift from waiting to winning. Because the truth is, life doesn't give opportunities to the most deserving, it gives them to the most daring. The ones who stop waiting for open doors and start building new ones. Most people spend their lives chasing security, thinking that if they can just hold on to a steady paycheck, they'll be safe. But safety and freedom are rarely found in the same place. The comfort of a job can quietly become a cage, soft, familiar, but limiting. A job pays the bills, but a vision builds the future. If you want to move from being a worker to becoming a leader, you have to trade security for significance. You have to let go of the idea that stability comes from someone else's system and realize that real stability comes from developing yourself. I remember the first time I realized this truth. I was working hard, putting in the hours, proud of my diligence, but one day it struck me, I was working hard to build someone else's dream. My mentor looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I began to see my job not as my purpose, but as my practice ground. Your job should be your classroom, not your ceiling. It's where you learn the skills, habits, and disciplines that prepare you for your vision. Observe how things work, study leadership from the inside, and develop the skills that make you independent. Every job teaches you something, if you're looking for it. Learn communication, management, negotiation, decision-making. Don't just show up to collect a check. Show up to collect lessons. Then take those lessons and build something of your own. Start small if you must. A business on the side, a project that expresses your purpose, an idea that excites you more than your job description ever could. You don't have to quit tomorrow, but you do have to start preparing today. Every hour spent building your own vision is an hour invested in freedom. The truth is, comfort feels good in the moment, but it costs you your potential in the long run. Growth demands discomfort. Freedom requires faith. There's a reason so many people stay where it's safe, it's easy. But the easy path rarely leads to greatness. You were not designed just to survive. You were designed to create, to lead, to build. One day, that secure job you cling to will end through choice, change, or circumstance. When that happens, will you have built something of your own? Will you have created a vision that outlasts your paycheck? Don't let your job be the end of your story. Let it be the beginning of your freedom. Use it to fuel your vision, to sharpen your skills, and to prepare for the day when you don't just work for a living, you live for a purpose. One of the greatest shifts in thinking that separates a worker from a leader is the move from completing tasks to creating systems. Workers live in the world of doing. Every day begins with a list and ends with exhaustion. They get things done, but they're always starting over again tomorrow. Leaders, on the other hand, live in the world of design. They think in terms of systems, repeatable structures that produce results even when they're not present. The real difference between exhaustion and expansion is structure. If you want to grow beyond what your two hands can do, you must build something that works even when you don't. In the early days of my career, I worked hard, really hard. I was proud of my work ethic. But at the end of every day, I realized something uncomfortable. If I didn't show up tomorrow, everything would stop. I wasn't running a business. I was running on a treadmill. That's when it hit me. As long as my income depended on my daily effort, I'd never be truly free. Freedom doesn't come from doing more, it comes from designing better. A system is simply a way of getting predictable results with less effort and less dependence on you. It could be an automated savings plan that grows your investments without thought. It could be a marketing funnel that brings in clients while you sleep. It could be a training process that allows someone else to take over tasks you used to handle personally. The goal isn't to remove yourself from work, but to free yourself from repetition. Once something works, document it, delegate it, or automate it. Build once, benefit forever. I often tell people, don't just work hard on your job, work hard on your system. Every task you do more than twice should have a process. Every routine should be simplified or automated. Technology has made this easier than ever, but few people take advantage because they're too busy being busy. That's the tragedy of most workers. They mistake activity for accomplishment. As a leader, your job is not to carry all the weight, it's to design the machine that carries it for you. The best leaders build systems so efficient that they can step away and everything still runs. That's when you know you've transitioned from worker to leader, when things work without your constant supervision. So take a step back from your daily grind and ask, how can I make this run without me? It might take time to build, but once it's done, it pays you for years. That's the secret the wealthy and the free understand. Don't just do the work. Design the system that multiplies it. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to work harder, but to work smarter forever. One of the most important lessons I ever learned was this: life doesn't get easier, but you can get stronger. The worker waits for conditions to be right before acting. They say, when things calm down, I'll start. When the economy improves, I'll invest. When I have more time, I'll build my dream. But here's the truth. Circumstances rarely cooperate. The winds don't stop blowing just because you want to sail. The leader understands that and learns not to be managed by circumstances, but to manage them. Leadership begins the moment you stop reacting to life and start responding with purpose. When I was younger, I used to let the weather decide my attitude. A sunny day, I was optimistic. A cloudy one, I was down. Then one day I realized how foolish that was. Why would I hand my emotions, my decisions, my destiny over to something as unpredictable as the weather? That's when I decided, from this day forward, I'm not going to let the outside dictate the inside. That's the difference between a worker and a leader. The worker is controlled by what happens. The leader decides what happens next. Every day, you'll face situations that test your patience, your plan, your discipline. A client cancels, a project fails, someone criticizes your dream, and suddenly your energy drops. The average person reacts, but reaction is a habit born from lack of vision. A leader pauses, breathes, and responds with purpose. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you interpret and act upon it. That's where strength comes from, emotional discipline. To build that strength, you must train it daily. Start with small moments. When something frustrates you, don't react instantly. Observe yourself. Ask, what's the intelligent response here? Keep a journal of your triggers. Moments that make you angry, anxious, or reactive. Write them down and decide how you could respond better next time. Over time, this practice turns your emotions from masters into servants. You stop living on impulse and start living on intention. Leadership is internal before it's external. It's not about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. Build routines that anchor you. Morning planning, quiet reflection, daily exercise, learning time. These small disciplines create inner stability, so when chaos arrives, and it will, you remain unshaken. The storms will always come. The question is, will you let them steer your ship, or will you hold the wheel? A worker waits for calm seas. A leader learns to sail through them. That's how progress is made, not by waiting for perfect conditions, but by mastering imperfect ones. So don't let life manage you. Train your mind, strengthen your resolve, and remember, you can't always change the wind, but you can always adjust the sail. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned in business and in life is this: you don't build empires by collecting profits. You build them by developing people. Money can buy machinery, systems, or buildings, but only people can carry a vision. The worker focuses on output, the leader focuses on growth. The worker says, how much can I make? The leader asks, how many can I make capable? Because here's the secret: the more people you help rise, the higher you climb. When I first started mentoring young entrepreneurs, I made the mistake many new leaders make. I thought leadership was about control. I believed I had to tell everyone what to do, make every decision, and have every answer. And then I realized something profound. People don't grow under control, they grow under trust. A true leader doesn't create followers, he creates more leaders. You see, profit is temporary, people are permanent. If you focus only on income, your impact dies with the quarter. One of the best investments you'll ever make isn't in the stock market, it's in someone's potential. When you teach what you learn, you multiply wisdom. Every time you pass on a principle, you extend your reach far beyond what you could do alone. When I taught my first team how to set goals, manage time, and lead others, I discovered that my growth multiplied with theirs. It's a simple law of leadership. You don't rise by climbing over people, you rise by lifting them. So, if you want to build something that lasts, shift your focus from management to mentorship. Stop telling people what to do and start teaching them why it matters. Encourage them to make decisions, even mistakes, because when people take ownership, they bring passion. When they feel trusted, they give their best. Leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about helping others discover their own brilliance. Measure your success not by how much control you have, but by how capable your people become without you. That's the true test of leadership. Anyone can command obedience. Few can inspire growth. Remember, profits fill your pockets, but people fill your legacy. So, the next time you lead a meeting, mentor a team, or guide a partner, ask yourself, am I growing this person or merely using them? Am I building a team or just managing labor? Because when you build people, profit will follow naturally. The reward of leadership isn't in how much you accumulate, it's in how much you elevate. Build people, and they'll build the future for you, for themselves, and for everyone your vision touches. Before you can lead a team, a business, or a movement, you must first lead the person in the mirror. Leadership doesn't begin the day someone gives you a title. It begins the day you take responsibility for yourself. Most people want to influence others, but they haven't yet learned to influence their own thoughts, habits, and emotions. You cannot manage others if you can't manage yourself. True leadership always begins with self-discipline. I remember the early days of my career. I wanted to change everything around me, the company, the people, the circumstances. But one day, a mentor said something that stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills." That hit me deep. I realized the problem wasn't the company, it was me. The day you stop blaming and start taking ownership is the day leadership begins. Leading yourself means developing habits that enforce your goals. It means waking up with intention, not drifting through the day hoping success will bump into you by accident. The worker wakes up when the alarm demands it. The leader wakes up when purpose calls. Each morning is an opportunity to design the day before the day designs you. Before you touch your phone, touch your purpose, ask yourself, what matters most today? And once you commit to something, keep your word, especially to yourself. Because if you can't trust your own promises, how can others trust your leadership? Every time you break a commitment, even a small one, you weaken your credibility. But every time you follow through, you strengthen your confidence. Self-trust is the foundation of influence. You also have to master your mindset. Leadership requires emotional control, the ability to think clearly when others panic, to stay calm when others crumble. Every evening, take a few moments to audit your day. Did I lead or did I just react? Did I make choices guided by vision, or did I let moods dictate my direction? This small habit builds extraordinary awareness. I often say, leadership isn't about commanding others, it's about commanding yourself. When you manage your time, your habits, and your emotions, you become the kind of person people want to follow. Influence doesn't come from authority, it comes from example. So start where leadership truly begins, with you. Lead your morning. Lead your habits. Lead your emotions. And soon you'll find that people naturally follow. Because people don't follow instructions, they follow inspiration. And the most inspiring thing you can show them is a life that's led with discipline, integrity, and purpose. Most people spend their lives trading hours for dollars, waiting for the weekend, praying for a vacation, and hoping one day life will get easier. But the truth is, ease doesn't come from escape, it comes from legacy. Workers think of the weekend. Leaders think of generations. The question isn't, how fast can I finish the week? It's, what am I building that will still stand when I'm gone? You see, a job will feed you for a season, but a legacy will feed your name for generations. When I was young, I used to think success was about how much I could earn. But as I grew, I realized true success is about how much outlives you. The goal is not to finish strong in a week, it's to finish with something that keeps producing long after you're done. That's why I tell people, stop thinking like a laborer trying to complete a task, and start thinking like an architect designing something timeless. The wealthy don't just work for income, they work for impact. They build systems that operate while they sleep, businesses that run without them, and teachings that transform lives long after they've left the stage. Every system, every principle, every person you develop is part of your legacy. It's not about how much you can do, it's about how much continues to be done because of you. I remember one of my mentors told me, "You're not just working for a living, you're working on a life." That changed everything for me. I started to ask different questions. Instead of how can I get through this month, I asked, what can I build this month that will serve others for years? That question redirected my energy from survival to creation. Legacy thinking also means passing on what you know. Knowledge that dies with you was never true wisdom. The great leaders of history didn't just make money, they made disciples. They taught, mentored, and empowered others to carry their principles forward. So teach what you know, share what you've learned, and find someone younger, hungrier, and willing to learn. Because leadership is never complete until it reproduces itself. Ask yourself daily, what am I building that lasts beyond me? It might be a business, a system, a family value, or a philosophy that guides others. Whatever it is, make sure it carries your fingerprint long after you're gone. Because in the end, it's not the hours you work that will matter, it's the difference you made. So don't just labor for a paycheck, labor for a purpose. Build something that has your wisdom in its roots and your vision in its branches. Because while workers finish the week, leaders finish with a legacy. And that's the kind of finish worth striving for. When I was a young man, I thought the goal of work was the paycheck. I worked hard, showed up early, stayed late, and waited for payday. But one day I realized something that changed everything. The paycheck feeds you for a week, but wisdom feeds you for a lifetime. You don't work just to earn, you work to learn. A worker looks for wages, but a leader looks for wisdom. Every job, every task, every challenge is a classroom if you're paying attention. When I worked for my first company, I didn't just do my job, I studied it. I wanted to know how everything worked. I asked questions about marketing, finance, logistics, and customer service. I wasn't just interested in what I was doing, I wanted to understand what made the business succeed. And I'll tell you, that curiosity, that hunger to learn, paid me far more than my paycheck ever did. The information I gathered in those early years became the foundation for everything I built later. The problem with most people is they're too focused on what they're getting instead of what they're becoming. They complain about the salary but ignore the lessons. They show up for the money but miss the mentorship. You have to shift your focus from income to insight, because what you learn while you're earning will one day decide what you earn when you're leading. So here's what I tell people: treat your current job like a paid education. You're being paid to learn how a business operates, how people behave, how leadership works, and how results are created. Watch what your leaders do right and what they do wrong. Study the system, not just your station. Take notes on how problems are solved, how customers are treated, and how decisions are made. Because someday, you'll need those lessons when you're the one making them. And don't ever underestimate the small things. The discipline of showing up on time, the patience of dealing with difficult clients, the humility of taking responsibility, those are the invisible skills that prepare you for leadership. Leaders aren't born, they're trained through the daily lessons of ordinary work. Every project, every problem, every mistake, it's all part of your leadership education. I remember when I was earning little, but learning much. And eventually, I found that what I had learned was far more valuable than what I had earned. Money comes and goes, but understanding compounds. What you know today determines what you can create tomorrow. So don't waste your job waiting for a raise. Use it as a workshop for your mind. Ask yourself daily, what is this teaching me about ownership, responsibility, and value creation? Because when you stop working just for a living and start working for learning, you won't need to chase opportunity. Opportunity will come chasing you. When I was young, like many others, I dreamed of climbing the corporate ladder. I thought if I just worked hard enough, stayed long enough, and impressed the right people, I'd eventually reach the top. But one day, it hit me. If you spend your life climbing someone else's ladder, you'll always be reaching for a rung that someone else controls. True freedom doesn't come from getting to the top of the ladder. It comes from owning the ladder itself. See, the worker's mindset is always focused upward, the next raise, the next title, the next promotion. But the leader's mindset is focused outward, the creation of ladders for others to climb. And that shift in perspective changes everything. When you work for someone else's dream, you trade time for security. When you build your own, you trade courage for freedom. It's a different kind of exchange, one that requires faith, growth, and patience. I remember working for a man who owned the company I worked at. He didn't seem any smarter than I was, but he had something I didn't: ownership. While I was working in the system, he was working on the system. That realization struck me deeply. He didn't need to climb. He had built the structure others climbed on. That's when I decided I wanted to be on that side of the equation. So here's the shift. Stop aiming for the next rung and start designing your own ladder. Use your current job as a classroom to learn the skills that will let you build your own business or investment system later. Study how the company earns, how it sells, how it manages people and resources. Every paycheck you receive is not just income, it's capital for creation. Start something small. It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe it's a side business, an online service, an investment project, something that allows you to test what you've learned and create an independent stream of income. Because when your own ladder starts to grow, you'll feel a shift inside from dependency to empowerment. You'll no longer be waiting for permission to rise. You'll be designing your own platform to lead. And don't wait for the perfect moment. It never comes. The perfect time to begin building ownership is while you still have security. Plan before panic. Create before crisis. Every great entrepreneur I've met began by building something on the side, after hours, with limited resources but unlimited determination. Remember, the goal isn't to reject work, it's to transform its purpose. Work becomes training, the ladder becomes your study, the climb becomes your classroom. And one day, instead of reaching the top of someone else's dream, you'll be standing on the foundation of your own. Because the ultimate goal is not to climb faster than others, it's to build something others can climb after you. That's when you stop being an employee of the ladder and become the architect of opportunity itself. When I first started out, I thought the goal was to make more money. I worked harder, longer, and faster, thinking if I could just earn enough, I'd finally be free. But what I learned, painfully and slowly, was this: income can feed you, but only assets can free you. You see, income buys you time, but assets buy you freedom. There's a difference between being well paid and being truly wealthy. A person can earn a fortune and still be a prisoner of their calendar. But a person who owns assets that pay them, whether they're working or not, owns their life. I remember the first time I understood this truth. I was watching a man I admired, a businessman who seemed to have all the time in the world. While I was rushing from meeting to meeting, he was calm, unhurried. I asked him one day, "How do you manage it? Don't you have the same 24 hours as everyone else?" He smiled and said, "I don't manage time, my assets do. That line changed me. He wasn't trading his hours for dollars anymore. He had built something, systems, investments, businesses that worked for him while he slept. That's when I realized most people spend their entire lives earning just enough to stay where they are. They use income to buy comfort, not freedom. They pay for weekends, not wealth. But the wise use income to build assets, things that keep paying them long after the work is done. Whether it's rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, digital systems, or businesses that run without you, these are the true builders of freedom. And here's the key. You must make the transition intentionally. Don't just save, invest. Don't just work, build. Every time you earn a dollar, ask yourself, will this dollar buy me something that pays me back or something that disappears? The poor buy things. The middle class buys liabilities that look like things. The wealthy buy assets that produce things. That's the difference. Now, freedom doesn't come overnight. You start by setting aside a fixed percentage of what you earn, no matter how small. You turn your income into investments, slowly, steadily. You learn to replace hours with systems, not with side hustles that still chain you to your time. The real goal isn't to work twice as much. It's to make your money and your systems work in your place. The day will come, and it will, when you wake up and realize your income from assets covers your expenses. That's the day you taste freedom for the first time. You're no longer working because you have to. You're working because you choose to. That's a different kind of wealth. Remember this, income will keep you alive, but assets will let you live. So while the world chases paychecks, start building freedom. Because the ultimate luxury is not a car, a house, or a title. It's the ability to own your time. When I was young, I used to think the key to success was getting a bigger paycheck. I believed that if I just worked harder, longer, and proved myself, someone would reward me with more money. But life doesn't quite work that way. You see, a paycheck can keep you fed, but profits can make you free. Wages make you a living, profits make you a fortune. The real difference between a worker and a leader lies in ownership. The worker earns for time given, but the leader earns from value created. I remember a mentor once asked me, "How long will you let someone else determine what you're worth?" That question hit me like a hammer. He was right. A paycheck is someone else's estimate of your value to them. But profit is your estimate of the value you bring to the marketplace. That's the shift. You stop asking, "What do I earn per hour?" and start asking, "What value can I create that the world will pay for again and again?" That's when you step off the treadmill of trading time for money and start building something that outlives your daily effort. The beauty of profit is leverage. You build something once, a product, a book, a course, a service, and it keeps paying you. You design a system, a piece of software, or a business process, and it continues to earn long after your initial work is done. That's when you move from survival to abundance. That's when your time stops being consumed and starts being multiplied. But to make that shift, you have to start thinking like a builder, not a worker. Workers look for better jobs, builders look for better opportunities. Workers wait for instructions, builders create solutions. You don't have to quit your job to start thinking like this, you just have to start acting like an owner. Learn entrepreneurship, marketing, and how value moves in the marketplace. Study what makes people buy, what makes products scale, what makes ideas spread. Every great fortune began with a simple idea and the courage to test it. And remember, profits aren't just about money, they're about growth. The profit from your work, your ideas, and your leadership compounds not only in your bank account, but in your mindset. When you start earning profits, you start believing in your ability to create, and that belief is the foundation of wealth. So the next time you're tempted to chase a promotion or a raise, pause and ask yourself a bigger question: what could I build that pays me instead? Because the paycheck may feed you this month, but profit will feed generations. Don't just work for income, create outcomes. Don't wait for opportunity, own it. The goal isn't to climb higher on someone else's ladder, it's to build your own. And that's how fortunes begin. When I first started working, I thought success was all about how many hours I could put in. The harder I worked, the more I earned, or so I believed. But one day, I realized something simple yet profound. No matter how hard I worked, I only had 24 hours in a day. My time had a limit, but my money didn't. That's when I discovered the secret the wealthy already knew. Your back will tire, but your capital won't. The rich don't just work hard, they make their money work even harder. Most people spend their entire lives laboring for income that vanishes at the end of each month. They trade their energy for money and spend that money so quickly it never has the chance to grow. But leaders, those who understand the laws of wealth, see money differently. They treat every dollar like an employee. Each one has a purpose, a task, and a return. If your dollars aren't working while you're sleeping, you're missing the very essence of freedom. The shift begins in the mind. You have to move from thinking like a laborer to thinking like an investor. Instead of asking, how can I earn more, ask, how can I make what I earn more? The difference may sound small, but it's the foundation of wealth creation. The wealthy reinvest before they reward themselves. They understand that every dollar spent today could have been a seed planted for tomorrow. That seed, once planted, grows into trees that bear fruit long after you've stopped working the soil. I remember when I first began saving and investing. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting. But over time, something amazing happened. My money began to multiply. Interest turned into compound interest. Small profits turned into significant gains. And suddenly, my money started earning more than I did. That's the point where wealth stops being an effort and starts being a process. The rich don't let their money sit idle. They put it to work in businesses, in real estate, in stocks, in ventures that generate cash flow. They understand diversification, spreading risk across different opportunities so that if one falters, another thrives. But more than that, they track their money. They know where it goes, what it's doing, and when it's returning. You must do the same. Every dollar should have a mission. Some dollars build, some protect, and some multiply. The truth is, money can either be your servant or your master. If you spend it thoughtlessly, it controls you. But if you direct it with purpose, it works for you. The choice is yours. You can keep sweating for every dollar, or you can let your dollars start sweating for you. So, take a portion of what you earn and reinvest it. Let your money join the workforce. Let it clock in every morning and build your future while you rest. Because one day, when your energy begins to fade, the only thing that will keep working faithfully, tirelessly, will be the money you trained well. And that, my friends, is the ultimate definition of financial freedom. When I was young and struggling, I used to think success was a solo journey. That if I just worked hard enough, stayed focused long enough, and hustled harder than everyone else, I'd make it on my own. But life, as it turns out, doesn't reward isolation, it rewards association. I learned that your results rarely exceed the expectations of the people you spend time with. If you surround yourself with dreamers, thinkers, and builders, you begin to rise. But if you spend your time with complainers, doubters, and drifters, you begin to sink. Your network, quite literally, becomes your net worth. Workers connect for comfort. They talk about weekends, paychecks, and promotions. But leaders connect for collaboration, for growth, for shared vision. They understand that every conversation could be a seed that grows into opportunity. Every introduction could be the bridge to something life-changing. When you start thinking like a leader, you stop asking, who can help me, and start asking, who can I help? Because when you bring value into relationships, opportunities naturally gravitate toward you. I remember when I began surrounding myself with people far ahead of me. Those who thought bigger, planned longer, and played smarter. At first, I felt out of place. I was the smallest thinker in the room, but that's exactly where I needed to be. Being the smallest thinker among giants stretches your mind, challenges your limits, and forces growth. The conversations were different. Instead of gossip, they talked about goals. Instead of complaining about the economy, they talked about creating their own. That shift in environment did more for me than years of hard work ever could. You see, wealth is contagious, but so is poverty. Spend enough time with those who make excuses, and soon you'll have one too. But spend time with those who make moves, and you'll start moving faster yourself. The energy of your circle becomes the engine of your progress. That's why you must evaluate your relationships, who's pushing you toward your potential, and who's pulling you away from it. Sometimes, success isn't about learning something new. It's about unlearning who you spend time with. I tell people all the time, don't just network, build relationships. The difference is in the intention. Networking is what most people do when they want something. Relationship building is what successful people do when they want to create something. The first asks for help, the second offers it. When you approach people with value, not need, you attract the kind of alliances that lead to shared prosperity. So find rooms where you're challenged, not just comfortable. Join masterminds, attend business events, volunteer in circles of excellence, because success rarely comes from what you know, it comes from who you grow with. Every major opportunity I ever received came through a person, not a paycheck. Remember, people open doors, money cannot. Your network is the garden of your destiny. Cultivate it wisely, and it will bear fruit for a lifetime. When I was young and broke, I remember seeing people drive fine cars, wear sharp suits, and live in big homes, and I thought, that's success. But I later realized many of them weren't successful, they were just impressive. There's a big difference between looking rich and being rich. Workers spend to appear wealthy. Leaders build until wealth becomes effortless. You see, if you buy before you build, you're trading tomorrow's freedom for today's comfort. I learned this lesson the hard way. When I earned my first good check, I celebrated too early. I bought the new car, the nice watch, the fancy dinners. And guess what? I was broke again within months. Then one day, I met a mentor who said something I'll never forget. He said, never reward yourself from the fruit, reward yourself from the tree. That meant, don't spend what you earn, spend what your earnings earn. That's how wealth builds itself. Leaders understand that discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. The average person spends to look successful. The wise person invests to become successful. Every dollar can either buy pleasure or purchase power, and power is what builds empires. I started making a rule for myself. No luxury until my passive income pays for it. It completely changed my financial destiny. Because once your money starts working harder than you do, that's when freedom begins. Think about it like planting a seed. You don't eat the seed, you plant it, water it, protect it. Then, one day, that seed grows into a tree that feeds you for life. But most people eat their seed the moment they get it. They consume what was meant to compound. That's why they stay stuck in the cycle of earn and spend instead of earn and grow. When you build before you buy, you learn patience. And patience is one of the most powerful financial virtues. It teaches you to respect the process, not rush it. It keeps your ego in check and your goals in focus. Because while others are chasing image, you're building infrastructure. While they're upgrading cars, you're upgrading cash flow. And let me tell you something. When your assets finally start paying for your lifestyle, the satisfaction is 10 times greater. Because you know you didn't fake it, you built it. The luxuries don't own you. Your freedom does. So, before you make your next big purchase, ask yourself this: will this make me look rich or will this make me stay rich? Always let your money build the foundation before it builds the facade. Because true wealth isn't measured by what you drive or wear. It's measured by what keeps working even when you don't. Build before you buy, and soon you'll never have to ask permission to enjoy what you've earned. As we come to a close today, I want you to take a moment and think, really think about what kind of life you're building. Most people work hard their entire lives, but very few ever build anything that works hard for them. They spend their years trading time for money, never realizing that time is the only thing you can't get back. Money, on the other hand, can multiply if you learn to use it wisely. The difference between the rich and everyone else isn't luck or background, it's philosophy. The rich have learned how to turn effort into equity, hours into assets, and work into wealth. They don't just show up for a paycheck, they show up with purpose. And if you begin to shift your thinking from working for money to building systems, assets, and people that pay you forever, your life will change in ways you can't imagine. But here's the truth: knowledge is worthless without action. You can listen, you can take notes, but until you decide to apply it, nothing changes. The next time you get paid, don't just ask, "What can I buy?" Ask, "What can I build?" The next time you face a challenge, don't complain, create. And the next time you see someone successful, don't envy them, study them. Because success leaves clues, and wealth rewards those who follow the trail with discipline and consistency. So starting today, commit to thinking like a leader, not a worker. Build before you buy. Invest before you spend. Grow before you glow. Because one day, you'll wake up and realize that freedom isn't bought, it's built. And the bricks are your daily decisions. Start building today, and let the life you design be the proof of the discipline you practiced.